Alright, welcome to another episode of Video Game Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Oceanhorn, Monster of Uncharted Seas on the Nintendo Switch. Now this is the first Oceanhorn game, not to be confused with the sequel that is, I'm not sure if the sequel is actually dropped on the Switch yet, but it should be coming out soon, if it's not already out. And spoiler alert for the tone of the rest of this review slash video. I have no intention of picking up the sequel. It's not that this was a bad experience. I'm just not inclined to follow the series further. You know what I mean? This was an alright experience, but it didn't necessarily leave me craving more. Now, one thing I will point out as you're watching the video here, the presentation I love, actually. I think the graphics and animation are fantastic. I think, you can probably hear the music and sound effects in the background. I would say the music is also pretty fantastic. The sound effects can be a little bit hit and miss. I feel the same way about the voice acting and the writing. And on that point, the voice acting and the writing, are also kind of hit and miss for me. Yeah, the story, as you might expect with this sort of, and point this out right now, obviously very, very much an old school Zelda clone to a certain extent, which is not at all a bad thing, of course. If you're going to imitate something, right? But as you might expect in this style of game, the story is nothing really to write home about. It's again, much like Hyper Light Drifter, I almost question, why is it there? Okay, so now we're looking at the sailing sections of the game, which some people may have a problem with. Some people, I would guess, probably do have a problem with, but I actually enjoyed them. So the first thing you do is you go to your map, as you see here, and you select where it is that you want to sail to. And then at this point, it's worth pointing out that you are not in control of your boat at all, ever. Not directly. Once you select a destination, it basically becomes like an on-rail shooter, but it's not even really that. They just give you things to shoot at. There are a few octopus enemies that will, spit something at you, but there's no real challenge to be had there, and that's fine. It's just kind of the sailing piece is just a really relaxing, enjoyable experience. Now, the one thing that I do want to, I guess, what is my gripe with this game, or why would I suggest that you think twice about whether or not you want to spend the time and the money to play through it? And that is just simply, I felt like, well, a couple of things. I felt like it did a little bit of hand-holding where it wasn't necessary, and then got kind of cryptic in places where I think the player could use some kind of a subtle cue or clue as to what they're supposed to do or where they're supposed to go next. And so I just thought they were a little off in terms of where they needed to communicate with the player, what they needed to communicate with the player. And so that was kind of a problem for me, and that gets to really the biggest issue, which I would say is just kind of a meh feeling. Okay, so don't get me wrong, there were definitely points in this game where I was fully engrossed, and I was wondering myself, where is the hype for this game? This game is so fantastic. I'm really into this. And then as the hours wore on, I was like, oh, I guess I kind of get it. At times it's great, but when you scale back and look at the big picture, it's kind of okay overall, I would say. I did wind up so if I'm playing a game and I'm really into it, like I'm really enjoying the experience of playing something, uh, I try to complete the game without looking up any information whatsoever. And if that happens, then I must have loved that game. If I get stuck or frustrated in the game and have to look something up, maybe once or twice, I would say that's still in the realm of acceptable. It's still a game that I'm obviously very much enjoying. Like, I'm making an honest attempt to play through the game with as little outside information as possible in those cases. But once you get into 3, 4, 5 times going online to look something up for a game, then what that tells me is that I'm not that interested or that invested in figuring the game out for myself. I don't want to take the time. I don't want to put the effort. Like, I'm kind of just ready to finish the game, play through the game, and then, like, move on with my life, right? Like, move on to something else. And so that honestly was the case here. Like, it started out pretty strong, it had my attention, and as the hours wore on, I was just like, all right, let's wrap it up. Now, you have to realize when you listen to my opinions on games that I'm kind of jaded at this point in my life. Like, so I'm speaking to I guess fellow jaded gamers, or gamers who, like myself, have played a lot of games, like an incredible amount of games, have just spent like an ungodly amount of hours or days or weeks or months or years of their life like playing video games, and you kind of feel like you've seen it all, you've done it all, and at this point in your life, at this point in my life, I just feel like it takes a real standout, a real exception of a game to get me truly excited anymore. And now, so if that doesn't describe you, right? If you, are not burnt out on games, if you just want like a halfway decent old school Zelda clone, I would say this really is not a bad choice. But if you are particular, if you've gotten to the point where like you still enjoy playing games, but you're like kind of particular how you want to choose to spend your time, Oceanhorn might be a pass for me. And like I said, I've seen the sequel. It looks interesting. It looks like a good looking game, but now understanding some of the design choices and the pitfalls of those choices that this team seems to be making, I think I'm going to pass. Well, that's all for today, man. I think that pretty much gives you a decent summary on this experience, or as deep into it as I'm going to go. Y'all have a good one. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.